The idea of making something from nothing, to me, is creation. Would you agree? It's like magic. Have you ever experienced anything created? Anything made from nothing?
O sea, muchísimas cosas de las que sé ahora no tenía ni siquiera idea, no solo que no supiera cómo hacerlas, sino que no tenía ni idea de que existían.
Entras a Centro y conoces un mundo nuevo, gente de todos lados, gente que está aquí para ayudarte, gente con emoción de aprender.
Creo que lo que más disfruté de Centro fue la parte real, la parte de cómo poder ser parte de proyectos que se realizaron y que tuvieron un impacto fuera de un aula de clases o de un ambiente escolar.
El colaborar con una empresa, el tener una cita con ejecutivos reales y tener que entregar un proyecto a clientes reales, pues es el mayor crecimiento que un estudiante puede tener.
Yo creo que no se vale decirle a un alumno o esperar hasta que el alumno se gradúe para decirle, ok, felicidades, a partir de hoy en adelante ya eres diseñador. No, yo creo que los alumnos pueden desde un principio ejercer la profesión para la que están estudiando.
Centro, más que un proveedor, ProMéxico lo ve como un aliado estratégico en la parte de diseño y promoción.
La verdad es que creo que Centro es de las pocas escuelas que realmente hacen un esfuerzo en México por, más allá de educar a sus alumnos, también vincularlos con el mundo profesional.
Están muy bien preparados, tienen una carga profesional muy interesante y conocen lo que está pasando en el mundo.
Me gustaría año con año ir renovando este equipo de gente joven que entra con ideas nuevas.
Hay una efervescencia interesante que nosotros hemos encontrado como necesaria a los proyectos de espacio.
Una gran labor en juntar a las empresas con los estudiantes y hacer proyectos reales que al final tengan un resultado concreto.
Yo creo que la creatividad tiene también que tener cierta responsabilidad y estudios.
El centro toma el liderazgo y promueve con las herramientas y las adapta a la cultura, a los desafíos y a las oportunidades muy particulares de la economía creativa.
Da muchas posibilidades y está muy abierto en las materias para que los estudiantes puedan seguir distintos rumbos, distintos caminos.
Constantly promoting the exchange of ideas and of services to different museums, to the industry, with different designers and with other institutions.
Es un alumnado inconforme con la situación circundante, inconforme con lo que hay en el medio, con lo que hay en la profesión.
La posibilidad de ver que sí se puede hacer educación de primera, aventurarse, correr riesgos y saber cómo comunicárselos a las nuevas generaciones.
Yo tuve la oportunidad de estar en un proyecto internacional en Los Ángeles, California. Me pude dar cuenta que Centro está al nivel de universidades como el Art Center College of Design.
Tuve la chance de que se expusiera un mueble en Nueva York para la línea de Kravet. Me fui a un workshop en Bosch Bouchet de diseño industrial.
Las ideas también se empiezan a mezclar, un poco a manera de estrella, ¿no? Algo que se junta y pero que a la vez también radia hacia diferentes direcciones.
Las carreras se están cambiando y actualizando permanentemente y también estamos cada año añadiendo nuevos programas que tienen que ver con las profesiones nuevas que están surgiendo en este momento. Vamos a lanzar un programa de nuevos medios.
Es que no existe nada similar en México y más que nada estudiantes que salgan de este programa van a crear las industrias en las que trabajen.
La incubadora es un proyecto que provee a los alumnos de Centro los recursos necesarios para llevar a cabo exitosamente un proyecto de un nuevo negocio.
Yo al salir de Centro no solo salgo con la mejor formación que pude salir como diseñadora, sino salgo con un negocio en mano que se va a crear y bueno, espero sea muy exitoso.
Uno aprende que los problemas se resuelven con imaginación.
And I would imagine that it's very well adapted to handling that because it seems that the school is trying to do that. It's trying to actually engage the moment.
Es una universidad donde se respira felicidad, mucho trabajo, disciplina, pero realmente una verdadera dedicación a lo que has querido hacer.
Yo creo que la única forma de llegar a un lugar diferente es cuando tienes la capacidad de ver más allá qué es lo que está pasando.
La explosión de las ideas y sentimientos de los chicos puestos en pantalla, y eso es desbordante porque es como ver el futuro haciéndose presente y encarnándose en imágenes.
Somos una carrera nueva en México y el enfoque y el esfuerzo que le dimos creemos que ha sido bien logrado.
It's very international. We have teachers and administration from all over the world. They're professionals in their fields. They are designers themselves.
Sin duda alguna, a nivel nacional, somos la mejor opción.
Saber que a ellos les está yendo bien y que lo que les enseñamos es lo que había que haberles enseñado.
Y es hermoso cómo se sorprenden de su propio éxito, porque no saben cuán grandes son, porque todavía quieren ser más grandes.
As I often say, the generation of students who are at Centro, like many other places, are the generation that are going to have to change the world.
I'm Daniel Westbrand. I'm a visual artist. Video mapping consists of projecting images on unconventional surfaces. You know, basically you have to get an object which isn't flat. Anyone can just project on an object. It's getting 3D objects. You can get buildings, 3D surfaces. Lots of people use cubes. Even people project on people. It's amazing stuff. It's easy to just get an image and project it onto a surface, but the real skill is getting that image and getting it to wrap around these 3D structures. the surface's three-dimensionality. And you have to make the images you're projecting coincide with the surface. You know, if not, the image is just going to look flat. You have to get this image and make it mold around this 3D structure. Things get really interesting when you start to mess around with interactivity and mapping. You can get these objects, these 3D objects, to transform and interact with these people. You know, you can start to tell stories.
My amo is Dr. Woohoo, and I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I do code plus art, and also I'm a director of creative technology at an ad agency. I was first an architect, and then, or studying architecture. And then I went into broadcast TV, commercials, graphics, animations, and then I needed to, the process was very slow back in the day, so I started writing my own code to make it faster and to do magic that I wasn't able to do before. And so that was probably early 90s, and so it's been, you know, a fun road since then. Oh, you know, structure is probably the magic word. Like if you look at a lot of the designs, my data visualizations of the circles and the rectangles, there's explicit rules in there that are carried over from architecture. And so it may not be obvious, like it looks chaotic maybe at the first blush, but when you look at it again, there's definitely a sense of order within that space. It's funny now. Now early on, it was a concept in my head. But now the artwork really tells me what direction it wants to go in, and I just follow it. But also, you know, inspiration's all around. So I ride my bike along the Rio Grande River a lot, and certain times of the year, there's cotton that's flowing in the air. And so sometimes I want to write the code to recreate that, and, you know, the flowing cotton, and use that as paintbrushes. And so the inspiration's everywhere. It depends on the artwork. The artwork tells me exactly where it wants to go. Sometimes it wants to live, you know, early on it wanted to live in two-dimensional planes, like on print or on the screen, on TV, stuff like that. But now it wants to jump out of that and live projected on the sides of buildings, and it wants to live, you know, in 3D form. And so it's really the direction that it wants to go. And most of the time that's innovative, new technology, have to learn a lot of new things in order to make that a reality. Oh, that's a really good question. That's a hard one because balance is important, right? So for about 3 years, I took off of work and I did a lot of the artwork, and that's all I did. Maybe a little teeny bit of work, but I have a daughter. So, you know, work and getting paid, that's a good thing. So now for the last year, it's been mainly work. But so we started at our company, we were at about 5 people, we're at about 35 people now. And so now it's a transition back into more of a 50-50, you know, between maybe even less work, more experiments. Oh, there's so many things you can do with video, right? Like if you look at the film like Jurassic Park, they were doing, you know, the dinosaurs and mimicking the physics back then, but it was all rendered out. It wasn't in real time. And then look at where video games are now with physics and stuff like that. So everything's getting to the point where it's more real time. You need these special devices, but we're even getting past that where it's just everywhere. The video work that I've done in the past, I worked in the video game industry. So we would slice it up into multiple layers and do compositing and all kinds of crazy stuff back then. But now we can begin to start doing that, and that's what we're exploring. How far can we push video online and in terms of with the interactive and the sensors, and begin to explore a new area with those two layers, right? Like we look at video as in the past as this two-dimensional plane moving fast, right? But now we can, if you take that plane and you turn on its side, it's a single pane, right? What we're doing is we're adding layers, and then we're making each layer semi-intelligent, so it could live, it could breathe, it could be completely different from one moment to the next. And to me, that's exciting, you know? Too much. Oh, we have too much data now. right? And that's the magic. You have to go into that data and you have to continuously massage it until it's something meaningful. Yeah, I think, you know, Brad Carvey, who invented the video toaster, he told me something a long time ago, and that was, Lightwave, he did all that stuff, and he told me, you don't have to be the best, just one of the best, right? And to me, that means dedicate yourself. Regardless of what path you're on, just be completely dedicated to it and learn as much as you possibly can. And then later on, you may switch paths, but as you get older, the funny thing is, these different narratives begin to, and the things that you worked on begin to weave into who you are, you know? So like I worked in the film industry, video games, broadcast TV, this just goes on, but now it's this really fun process where they're all coming together, you know? My name is Dr. Woohoo, and I'm here at OFF in Mexico, and thank you very much.
My name is Jared Smith, and I'm from the company Derivative, and we make a software package called Touch Designer, which is an application for making real-time graphics for artists to make things that are usually more like video game systems and stuff like that. We didn't, I mean, Touch didn't even really have a programming language. I mean, it had a scripting language in it, and it was always about compositing and 3D. Houdini, that's what it is. I mean, it's a compositor and it's a 3D engine. And that's what we thought we were building. But then we started making projects for very large theme parks, and we started doing these huge, massive, interactive things. And we realized that you can't do everything using nodes and connecting things together. You have to use a programming paradigm. And so we started to extend our scripting language to do that. But our scripting language really sucked. And we've been using that. It's called T-Script, and it's in the current version. But now we've ripped that out. Well, it hasn't ripped it out, but we've put in Python, and now we're just releasing that product in about 2 months, but we're going into beta right now, so we're very excited about that. I'm not a programmer, first of all. I mean, I'm more of an artist than I am a programmer, and I think I just do well crossing the boundaries, and I'm more of a hacker. But I did a little computer science in school, and I think it was Visual Basic or something, and then after that, I learned RenderMan. RenderMan is a shading language for doing visual effects, for film effects. And then from RenderMan, I obviously did a lot of like C-cell scripting and more like Unix kind of stuff, and then that's T-Script, and then now I'm learning Python, and I love it, and a GLSL. So I mean, Touch Designer is really a node-based compositing engine with Python scripting that lets you build Python scripts, and then also for doing visual stuff you use GLSL, which is OpenGL shading language. I think the future is, and I feel very strongly about this, that the future is merging cinema with interactive systems. I think a lot of the interactive shows lack in a visual sort of beauty, or just being awesome. So whereas current day cinema, I think, is blowing my mind, so Prometheus and all this stuff. But I see that if that stuff can come together and let people kind of be in an immersive environment, and a super high resolution environment, and maybe not even sitting down, maybe it's music based at first, and maybe it grows into something else. I mean, I don't know what the future holds, but I look forward to building those kinds of systems. So I think it not in the film industry. I think the film industry is probably using it the most wisely, and they're the greatest experts in it, whereas the interactive world is, I think it is a little bit behind the technology. So like the art is behind the technology a little bit. I mean, it's hard to do both, but that's the thing I hope in the future is, because we can play back video so fast, like super high resolution, like ideally 2K video, and make that interactive and be able to change and switch and be augmented with layers of interactivity on top of it, like maybe a 2K background with stuff on top. That's the trick, and we've built systems like that as well. So some of the time you have no choice, and you try to do something that's smarter and better and cooler, and they say no, and so instead you spend 5 times more time trying to. And that's the problem with real time. It's not like in compositing in film where you can kind of like you can jerry-rig things to make it look precisely with the way somebody wants it. You have to. It actually has to work, right? So. I mean, that's the best way, is build it inside the real-time system. Build it with the tools you do. Start simple, get the interactivity kind of in there, get the visual concept together, and then you build on it, and then you start compositing the system. I mean, you're not just compositing pixels anymore, you're compositing people's clicks, you're compositing data, you're compositing information, you're compositing text, you're compositing waveforms and audio, and all that stuff has to come together. So, and I think the best thing in my mind is to come up with visual concepts, vignettes or whatever you want to call them, and then you know, I think it's smart to storyboard things a little bit and be very methodical about that. And there's no need to go, you know, once you have your visual concept on paper, then you can kind of chase that. And it's probably not going to end up being the same thing, especially in real time, because you just realize that certain things aren't possible. So it's more about the process, and the end result isn't, you're not delivering a film, you're delivering a system, and it's a box and it runs, but it allows you to change it, allows you to adjust it at the end. It gives you a lot of freedom, and it can also be interactive in the context of being responsive to certain moments, events, the phase of the sun, moon, full moon. I mean, there's lots of things to base things on that isn't an individual walking up and pushing things, because that's too closed, in my opinion.